So the overarching Sunday theme that came to me months ago was taking time out of the bottle. Now, I will share, because I've gotten a couple inquiries about where do these talk titles come from. The blue. Where the divine has permanent residency. The blue. They literally just waken within me. I often have no idea what they mean until weeks later, because I sit with them and I'm like, okay, taking time out of the bottle, what are you talking about? And so I did a little research on Jim Croce's song, Time in a Bottle. And if you really look at the lyrics of that song in context, it is about experiencing eternity and the joy of the infinite now. And wrapping our heads around doing that into eternity. I would save every moment just to spend them with you. And so perhaps taking time out of the bottle is to recognize that there is no bottle other than the one we create. That we are in fact empowered to enjoy every moment that has ever been enjoyed in eternity now. That in the truth of wholeness, some part of us was present for every joyous moment that our human us doesn't even know happened. Right? Every marriage that we never physically attended is available to us to enjoy in the eternal now. And what if we get out of the form and just allowed ourselves to experience undefined joy? Right? You ever have one of those moments where you're just diddy-bopping through life and there's really nothing particular going on, and all of a sudden you're just experiencing joy that you have no explanation for? Right? That's available to us every moment of now. It really is. So I think, for me, that's my understanding of taking time out of the bottle. Time is a construct that we kind of need here on planet Earth, because left to our own devices without time, I'm not sure how we'd function. Some of us would function well, and some of us would not. You know, how would I know when to show up and do Sunday service if there's no time? So it's a good thing, and it's a bad thing, and maybe it's just a thing that we created to structure this journey of humanity. But we don't have to give it its own power and authority, that it's just a function, right? So maybe that's the whole thing of taking time out of the bottle. Return to the infinite. So, how do I do that when I can't find happiness, peace, or contentment? How do I practice spiritual principle when I can't find happiness, peace, or contentment? First thing that comes to mind is to stop thinking that those things are someplace that you have to uncover and find in order to experience them. right? How are we defining happiness, peace, and contentment? I've used this story before. I'll use it again because it's one I understand and I think you can relate to. Many of us were raised with, you can't buy happiness. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Comes in a white box about yay big. Right? Made with dough, sauce, toppings, cheese. I'm very happy when I get a pizza. I can buy happiness. And it lasts as long as my pizza lasts. And then I experience a moment of sadness. If I'm really paying attention to what's happening in this human mechanism, I don't recognize when I've taken the last piece. I recognize it when I go back for one more and there's none there. And it's big pout. Even though I took the last piece, it's not like I didn't know I was doing it, but it didn't register because that's my happiness for the moment. Right? How are you defining happiness? And why are we looking for it? Right? How is it that we can't find something that is part of our innate being? Happiness, peace, and contentment is the nature of our being. Where are we looking? Right? If I'm looking for my happiness at Domino's, and Domino's is closed, now I don't have happiness. Right? I found it, but now I can't access it. That's the limitation of our thinking. If I make happiness contingent on condition, then condition controls my happiness. This process is amazing to me, what we're doing here. Because this morning, before service ever started, conversation was happening about this very thing. With no idea, just like I have no idea where this thing is going to land on Sunday morning. But the infinite does, and so it starts the prep with a conversation about life. Now, I'm going to share this, and let me just tell you, it has a profane word in it, but it loses something if I don't tell it the way it actually happened. So I'm about 6 months clean in a 12-step meeting, whining about how hard my life is now that I got clean. Whining that I was lied to because, oh, y'all said everything is in divine order. Now, it is. And I was the one not getting it. And here's where I got it. After the meeting, this beautiful, elderly, and I mean elderly, Miss Adelaide worked her way over to me with her cane, and if she was a day, she was 90. And she looked at me, and she said, honey, everything is in divine order. And some of it's shit. Oh! I have never forgotten that moment. Because what I was doing was hearing everything is in divine order as everything is divine. That's not what they were saying. Right? Life happens. Some of it's crap. What am I attending to? What am I giving power to? See, the crap is as much God as the not crap. Right? If there's only one source, then everything is made out of that. So it must contain it. Here's where we get lost, I think. is when we reason from condition to principle. When we try to understand spiritual principle from the wrongness of condition. When I say this is not okay in the world, it's not okay that we have had what school's been back in session a week? And already our children are killing each other? That's not okay. It's not. And it's not the absence of God. It's the absence of awareness of God. There's a difference. There's a difference. Instead of telling God, which when we're telling God anything, we've placed God outside of ourselves. So now we're actually practicing duality. And understand, this is subtle stuff, but it's important. Because if I'm practicing duality, I'm saying, I'm not that. And if I'm saying, I'm not that in form, it gives me permission to say, you're not that in form. And it gives me permission to dehumanize you, because I've deglorified you. Right? So we need to stop telling ourselves, God within us, God within each other, how big the problems of the world are. Because what it does is it sidesteps any responsibility we have to heal those. Right? I feel completely overwhelmed, and instead of owning, how do I do this? I feel overwhelmed. I put God outside of me because I've decided I'm a victim. I need a Savior. What if we start by recognizing what's in us? Deborah spoke a beautiful prayer this morning, recognizing the God in everything and everybody. That's why it's the first step of treatment, to recognize it. To recognize, to know again and again and again and again. Because the thing that is most polished in our human experience is our forgetter. It is the most efficient part of our human experience, is our forgetter. We don't have to work on it. We have to heal it. How do we heal it? By remembering. It's just like a muscle. Okay? If you sit for the next 30 days, your legs will atrophy. Your legs will begin to shrink. The muscles will become ineffective. How do you build those back up? Move them. Move them. Use them. Even if you can't stand, but you can move your legs, you get one of those little shuffle things. And if you can't get one of those, just move them. But we have to exercise our rememberer until it's stronger than our forgetter. Doesn't mean we won't forget. We will. Right? Spiritual practice moves spiritual principle from being in a first aid kit that we can't remember where we put it when there's an emergency. Anybody else have those first aid kits in your home? You know you have a first aid kit and you have no idea where it is. And then all of a sudden somebody gets cut and there's the great, where is it, scramble. Anybody else? Just me? Okay. And I'm a former EMT. I know better. Proof that when we know better, we don't always do better. If we have a daily spiritual practice, when life happens, it's automatic. I suspect many of you especially when you were pregnant with your first child. Did a few dry runs, right? Before your water broke, you did a few dry runs. Okay, when it's time, the bag is here. We'll go to the car, and it takes this long to get to the hospital. And you did a few dry runs so that when it happened and you were overcome with, oh my God, and your brain was rendered useless, it was autopilot. Right? You just picked up the bag and you went to the car and you went to the hospital, and with any kind of luck you remembered the pregnant person in the process and took her too. I say that because I'm remembering the moment where I did a bunch of dry runs when I first became a grandfather. Right? That, okay, when I put Emily in the car, I need all this and I need this and I need this. So I had it all set up. And then that moment happened where I followed through all of that, and I got about halfway down my 1 mile driveway, and I thought, wow, Emmy's being really, oh crap, there's no baby. I took everything except my granddaughter. I turned around, got back up to the house. There sat Emily in her car seat with a dog on either side, licking her face, just laughing and having a great time. Sometimes we forget the most important thing. But at least we're automating part of the process. Do a daily spiritual practice. So what do? First of all, define. Get real with yourself. How are you defining happiness, peace, and contentment? And if any part of your definition requires somebody else to do or be something, redefine it. Because if you're waiting on somebody else to make you happy, you're backing up. You are in charge of your happiness. You are in charge of your peace. You are in charge of your contentment. All of it exists in you right now, this moment, always has, always will. It was born in you. It's not a matter of what do you do when you can't find it. It's a matter of how are you stopping yourself from accessing it. It's right where you are. Every moment of every day. Access it. And if you bump up against it, that's what we have spiritual mind healing for. To heal the mental constructs that you have created against your own happiness, against your own peace, against your own contentment. Doesn't mean condition doesn't happen. I want to be like Don Miguel Ruiz, who walked out of a mall in Northern California. His car was gone. And his first response was, cool, I get a new car. That's where I want to live. That somebody stealing my vehicle doesn't change my happiness. It just changes my vehicle. Doesn't change my happiness. We can be that. We can be that power of peace that stands in the middle of the storm and experiences stillness and makes that available to everybody else. We can be that. But first we have to know that it exists here. That it's not someplace we have to look for it. Because the harder you look for it out here, the further away you get from actually finding it. Right? It's I'm looking over here, and all I have to do is close my eyes and look within. There it is. And then allow yourself to feel it. It all comes back to relationship and feeling. And us human beings, Bless our pointed little heads. We don't want to relate, and we certainly don't want to feel. We don't. If we did, we wouldn't work so hard at not feeling. We wouldn't have so many avenues to avoid feeling. We just wouldn't. Facts don't lie. I learned that as a cop. Evidence don't lie. Facts don't lie. They may tell us something we don't want to hear. They may present something that we don't want to deal with. Doesn't make it less true. Just means we don't want to deal with it. And if you catch yourself saying, well, I do want to feel. I feel this, I feel this, I feel this. Keep going until you run out of all the things that you're qualifying that you feel, until you get to the list of what you refuse to feel. Right? The fact that there is a defended response tells you there are things you don't want to feel. Okay? I'll wrap up with this. The most precious, the most valuable relationship you are ever going to have is with you. You can't find one answer in me for you. You can find an example of the answers that I have found about me that I share publicly. But you can't relate to you through me. You just can't. And when I'm talking about the relationship with you, I'm not talking about the one from the neck up. I'm not talking about the one filled with nasty dialogue that starts with, "You're so stupid." I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about the relationship with the truth of you. The God you. Will you allow yourself to have a relationship with that? To get to know that part of you that you have been taught to be afraid of. That part of you that your head lies to you about. That it tells you it's not safe to know that part of you. That it will somehow make you more vulnerable in the physical realm if you pay more attention to that part of you than this part of you. They're the same part of you. All we've done is categorize them, separate them. I cannot possibly heal my separation that I've established between me and you until I heal the separation I've established between me and me. Can't do it. If I am unwilling to embrace and embody oneness of me, I sure won't embrace that about you. Let's take this into prayer. And so in this moment, I feel the recognition of the infinite. I see the recognition of the infinite. I know again that there is only one power, one presence, one activity of creation, indefinable, unlimited. And I know that I am that in form. That it was born in me as I was born out of it. And I know that in the truth of one, in the truth of a whole, that what is true of me must be true of all. And so I speak my word, claiming and affirming a revelation of the oneness, of the wholeness that we are. And by revelation, I am literally speaking about revealing it, the self to the self. That I am no longer fooled by the activity of misalignment. The activity of humanity that refuses to recognize the truth of its being and chooses to act out of alignment with it, creating the experience, the situations, the physical landmarking of pain, of evil, of meanness, whatever name we put on it. The crap of life. I recognize that God is fully present in every moment, and that the healing is a simple aligning with the truth of being that recognizes it cannot act against itself. That thought is healed, and as thought is healed, actions are healed. And as actions are healed, community is healed. And as community is healed, society is healed. That all true justice evolves from healed relationship, beginning with the relationship of the divine with itself in form. So I claim that is the activity of healing this day. That this day there is a bit more awareness, a bit more ownership, that God is everywhere present, that love is the greatest power there is, that it's safe, that it's necessary, that it is glorious to allow ourselves to feel it, to embody it, because we already be it. And so I am joyful. I am grateful. I celebrate that truth. I allow that to invade my human experience, to redefine happiness, to redefine peace, to redefine a contentment that knows it knows because that's what it knows. That God is, that love is. End of discussion. And so knowing this to be true, I can release. I can let go. I can let go of all of the human chatter that tells me I, the human I, need to do something. And drop into that spiritual me to be something. And allow my being to inform my doing. I let go. I let God be God. In every magnificent way, it is God. Ashe. Shalom. Aho. Amen. Amen. And so it is.